Hey everyone, what's up? Have you heard of The Penny Black? The Penny Black, if you love documentaries, film noirs, and just immersive stories, which may or may not be true, I would check out The Penny Black. It's a movie that still, even after several weeks after checking it out, I'm still thinking about it. And it was really cool for us over at the Find Your Film podcast to have director Joe Saunders and producer Alex Greer on to talk about the veracity or maybe the fakeness behind The Penny Black. It's really an interesting movie or documentary, however you want to see it. This documentary, after you watch it, it continues to live on because Saunders and Greer, they actually worked 5 to 6 years on this project, and they're actually uploading clips and deleted scenes from the doc that is actually housed on their website. So after watching The Penny Black, where you can actually find it on pretty much all digital platforms, after renting it or purchasing it, go to their website and check out some more information regarding the documentary. Now if you don't know anything about The Penny Black, here is a plot synopsis. I'm just going to look at my computer. I'm really bad at, I don't want to really, it's such a really interesting film. I'm just going to take the log line straight from their website, thepennyblackmovie.com. Here you go. The estranged son of a con man fights temptation, paranoia, and his own nefarious legacy as he searches for the rightful owner of a mysterious $1 million stamp collection. This documentary is basically set in Los Angeles, and the main person, his name is Will Cassett Smith, and he's friends with the filmmakers behind The Penny Black. And again, like I said, they spent 5 to 6 years making this project and completing it. So it is a labor of love, but most importantly, selfishly for the viewer, it's just a really intense and fun and, again, immersive experience. It still has stuck with me several weeks after watching The Penny Black. During the interview, they also talked about how they're trying to make this documentary into a movie as well. They're currently working on a treatment for The Penny Black, and they're thinking of one of their wish lists for the person to play Will Cassett Smith is Caleb Landry Jones, which, for the purposes, if you've seen the documentary, Caleb would be a perfect choice. No matter what the case, I hope a movie is actually made, because this is such an interesting documentary just as it stands alone, and I would love to see an entire world built from this doc. My co-hosts Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes also love this documentary, and all three of us ask not softball questions but hard-hitting questions to both Alex and Joe, and they were all game for this interview, and it was really cool. So definitely check out The Penny Black via digital platforms, and also you can actually purchase or rent The Penny Black via the website. Now, it's better if you've actually watched The Penny Black first, and then this interview will give you some really value-added information regarding creative directions they decided to take in completing the project, and if you have questions about some of the characters, about Will's trustworthiness, where the heck did Roman go after shooting was completed, what happened to the stamp book, and all that stuff. If you have all these kind of questions, you won't be able to really fully enjoy, I think, in my opinion, the full interview unless you actually watch The Penny Black right off the top. Okay, and for people who've actually already seen it, I'm going to stop talking and blubbering right now, and here's the interview with Joe Saunders and Alex Greer. I'm joined with my betters, Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes, for this Find Your Film podcast interview with the filmmakers behind this awesome documentary, The Penny Black. Take care, guys, and also leave a comment below. Tell us what you think about The Penny Black, if you think it's real or fake, or maybe a little bit of both. We'd love to hear your initial thoughts, your overall thoughts regarding this project. Okay? Take care, guys. Thanks again for supporting us here over at Find Your Film, and please like this video and join our Deepest Dream YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. I'm going to be posting up a lot more stuff just in the coming days, in the coming years. I have a lot of old archive interviews from my 20-30 years plus of doing interviews. I'll be uploading that stuff as well on the site, along with material from the Find Your Film podcast and the Cinematics podcast I do with my buddy Anderson Cowan. Again, I'm gonna shut up now. Most importantly, here is Saunders and Greer talking about The Penny Black. I love this movie so much. I love this documentary so much. Maybe they're a little bit of both. Take care, guys. Bye. Hey everyone, we're back for another week of Find Your Film. We have some special guests for this episode. I'm very, actually, me, Bruce Perky, and Eric Holmes are very, very excited to welcome the Penny Black filmmakers. We have director Joe Saunders with us, and we have producer Alex Greer. Alex, yeah, good. You unmuted your mic. I thought I accidentally tried to shut you up, and I promise I won't do that during the purposes of the show. First of all, just heads up, all three of us are huge fans of this documentary of the Penny Black. I have a bunch of hard-hitting questions, I guess, or maybe they might be soft. I don't know if they're softball or hard-hitting, but hopefully we'll get to the point regarding the true mysteries behind the Penny Black. But first off, welcome Alex and Joe. Anything else? We want to just start off with the Penny Black. Just in general, Joe, and Alex, what kind of reactions have you received in the past couple of weeks from people who've seen your documentary?
I mean, kind of all over the board. I mean, it's been fairly positive in terms of the press. But just to set that aside for a second and say, listening to your podcast was one of the most fun, like probably the most fun I've had since finishing this project. So thank you guys for getting so involved in the debate, and I'm sure we're going to get there. But it was really fun to see and be called dickheads. That was fun too.
And thank you so much, Joe, because secretly we all hate each other. So it's a nice thing that you actually got us smiling. But in general, Alex, Joe, you've gotten some really good reactions from people in general. What kind of have people called you out, or have people just really bought in hook, line, and sinker?
I mean, there's always some suspicion, even when we were pitching this before we finished the documentary, when we would just be pitching it to raise money or whatever. We pitched as a documentary, and then after we were done pitching, they would say, wait a minute, this is a documentary? And so we've been aware that there's a really sensational kind of story going on here that's hard to believe. And it's been, we've gone through different waves on it. When it was playing the festival circuit, there would be some Q&As that we would try and kind of nip that conversation in the bud, because, we worked on this for 6 years or longer. And at first it was kind of like, haha, we're working on something that people don't believe. That's so fun. And then it became, why aren't people believing us? Like, we got real angry about it. And then, we tried to figure out ways in which we could, part of our ending, like the very ending of this movie, we changed in order to and it felt really weird because we were changing the ending in order to make something that we knew was real seem more realistic. And that was just like, if you're interested in finding out more about the film, you can go to our website and see all of our deleted scenes and all of that stuff. And that was to hopefully give people a sense that, there's a ton of footage here that we didn't use, and cutting 6 years down into 90 minutes leaves you with some continuity holes that people, could take or assume as, oh, there's dots that aren't connecting. So we tried to connect all those dots through our website, but that kind of backfired because some people didn't like the fact that the story doesn't end. It keeps going, even though this is real life. And, our stories don't end as neatly as we want them to, however much editing can be involved in that. So,
well, there's also misreading, I think, on that. I think people thought that we were trying to extend the end of our narrative past the runtime of the movie. And the end of our movie is very much the end of this. We feel like that's a conclusive, denouement moment. And the bonus stuff is bonus stuff.
Okay, very cool. So I'm going to unleash the hounds. Eric Holmes, Bruce Perky, have at these filmmakers. And so.
Well, first of all, that last part you said about kind of paring the movie down, and then the recognizing that the bonus stuff is bonus stuff. I have to commend you on that, because a lot of filmmakers feel that everything I did is art and it all needs to be on this big thing. So I do appreciate that. And I'm an idiot. Was this how real was this? Was it because you heard the podcast, and I had I took issue with how the subject was treated towards the end, but how much was he in on that, and how much of it was real, or was it all fabricated, and I'm just an idiot? Or
No, I mean, I think it's a fair criticism to suspect that, especially as a critic and as someone who's watching movies to form an opinion. Like, I don't think that's a terrible opinion to form. However, this is all 100% real. Like, everything you're seeing is 100% real. Will is a super shady guy. He's also a friend, and those two things can coexist. And you know, and he loves this movie, and it's the oddest thing. And I've kind of gotten used to it. But the first time we showed it to him, we were really nervous. Like, we were like, you know, he doesn't come off that great in this. Like, and his cooperation was paramount to like this movie being made. He could have at any point pulled the plug and just been like, I don't want to do this anymore. So we were really, one of the hardest things of this movie was treating him with that kind of care, that, you know, we needed to get what we needed to get and tell the story that we needed to tell as honestly as it was happening, but we didn't want to scare him off or make him feel like he was being put in a bad light. And that dance was really the hardest thing about this movie. And in the end, he loved it. Like, he watches it. And I was telling this to Alex the other day. I have an ex-girlfriend who was a writer, and she wrote this article about a camping trip we had. And it was like, we were in that stage of, we kind of knew it wasn't going to work out. So we were fighting a lot. And we went camping, had this really weird experience with this man we met there who was kind of scary. And anyway, she wrote this article, and I come off not in the best light. But I love it. And I sent it out to everybody. Like, I sent it out to Alex. I was talking about this to Alex the other day. I was like, do you remember that story that Nikki wrote about me? And he was like, yeah, I remember you don't come off that good. But I still really like it. And that's the closest comparison I can think that Will is feeling. Like, we spent 6 years with this guy, you know, who's also kind of a friend, and we would get beers after shoots and stuff. And we dedicated this much time to crafting what he sees as a time capsule as a part of his life that's reflected honestly, even though he doesn't come off that great. And he appreciates that. And he sees value in that. So he likes it. And I'm used to it now. But yes, 100% of what you're seeing on screen happened. I mean, you know, it's cut from 5 years into 90 minutes. So there's...
So now I got another question then.
So do I.
Because the movie's out. Has Roman seen this?
No, I don't know. Maybe
you may have.
And if Roman sees this, is he going to come looking for that other book?
That's a good question, and I've asked Will that. And Will doesn't think so, but Will's also, you know, kind of, I don't know. He doesn't view fear in the way that most people do. Roman, we finally found after looking for him again. After he leaves the bar, the smart thing would have been to run up to him and, you know, be like, hey, sorry, we were just filming this, you know, because he didn't seem that dangerous at the bar. He just, like, he was in a good mood, I guess. And he hadn't had a beer in over a year. That was something that we cut out. And he had 2 beers that night. So I think, who knows what happened that night. But anyway, I finally reached back out to him. He was in Phoenix. I told him about the documentary. He signed a release, and he was up for doing an interview. And he didn't see the documentary. I told him what it was about, that it was about the stamps that Will held on to forever and, like, the search for him. And he was pretty giddy about that. He found that to be ridiculous but funny, and he was totally into it. And he was down to do an interview, and then COVID happened, and then I lost touch with him. Then I like have a string of texts like, hey, you know, are you still up for doing this, or are you still around? And just nothing, which seems to be his MO. He just pops up and then he disappears.
Oh, that sets you up for Penny Black 2, the search for Roman again.
Yeah. Just follow Will around and wait for Roman to just show up out of the side. Because I was going to say, because I mean, Will, like, we're all wondering about. I mean, you guys are obviously wondering about it too. I mean, you're like, hey, you got this new boat. Where did that come from? Oh, Mom bought it. Hey, this is an awesome new car you have. Oh yeah, it's cool. You know, and it's like, it looks a little bit scary. Okay, I do have another question that's kind of unrelated to this particular line. I have to know more about, and you may have this on the supplemental information, which I haven't viewed yet. I have to know more about that visit to that family or whatever in the desert.
How many stamps were you given? It was like one big book and two kind of smaller books. Like binders? Yeah. Colored binders? Like colorful? They were like the spines were different colors. The actual surfaces were like a snakeskin type. You don't have them now? I have one of them. You have one of them? With them, yeah. And do you know if they're stolen or what you don't know anything? What made you find me? Beside being online and seeing the article. Well, there's the person who has who gave me these stamps has a lot of connections to Arizona as well. Okay. We think. Okay. Right? At least he said that he did. Okay. And that's kind of it's a pretty small world, right? Right. For there to be stamps the same dollar value stamps that were stolen from your family. Right. Yeah. Because that's important for me to know your story. Sure. Absolutely. I can kind of understand, because this was a major FBI investigation. My uncle, we pretty much are sure, was murdered. Really? He used to tell me, when I die and you're ready to cash these in, you don't take any less than $1 million. They're worth $1 million. And he knew, because he had them appraised and everything. Right. He didn't know. He's old. Sure. He's, at a mall showing his stamps off. Well, they put it in the paper. Yeah. So, of course, anybody that's not a good guy sees that and says, oh, this old man I can knock off. Yeah. The feds felt the whole collection would be broken up and sold independently. Yeah. Did that have stamps in it, that binder? The one that they recovered?
It was just like a mixture of those.
Yeah, we did identify those, right? Yeah, we went in and identified those. The 4 Mexicans trying to get across the border, along with some of the stamps. They're Mexicans. Yeah. Yeah. Guns. Really? Yes. And for you to get them, yeah, you only got a bag of them. What, 2-3 binders? Yeah. I can't even tell you how many binders there were. We're talking boxes. Yeah. The ones from U-Haul. Right. That's what they were in. Wow. 5 of them. And
didn't Roman say that he had like a whole U-Haul?
He said he had a lot, yeah. I think he did say something along the lines of he had a whole U-Haul. That'd be them.
That was, to me, the scariest moment in the movie. And what was it like being there, and how nervous or not nervous were you guys in that situation?
All right, I need to set this. Alex, tell them about Waipuna first before.
Yeah. So, oh god, but how did we even come across Waipuna?
We just did blanket emails, right? We just
because we were responding to they put up that ad. They put up like a post of like, if anybody finds their stamps, $10,000, no questions asked, reward. So we just responded to it. It was old too. And we ended up getting an email back from a woman who called herself Vaipuna. And she said, like, she has a lot of stuff to tell us about these stamps. Please contact her immediately. And so we called her, and we have this recorded. It's like a 40-minute long conversation that we can't use, unfortunately, where she talks about how, like, she has to keep herself a secret from her sister because she's had like recurring nightmares that like her sister is stabbing her to death, that like she thinks would be realized if they ever like found each other in real life. And this was all like precipitated by these stamps and the stealing of them and like the dissolution of their family at the cost of it. But yeah, that's my Puna, and she put us in touch with Bonnie. And this was the one shoot that I actually didn't go on. I don't know if you remember it, Joe. I was out of town. I was out of the country.
So yeah, Alex goes out of town. We're going to meet up with this woman who her sister is so afraid of that she doesn't have any communication with her. She has nightmares about her and doesn't know where she lives. So I'm going to this woman's house with Will, who I don't trust to get my back, and an intern named Hannah Lacey, who is doing our production sound, has never done sound before. That's our crew. So we get there, and the first person we see is Corey, who's Bonnie's son. And, he looks like an interesting guy, but also someone who could take care of himself if he needed to. And that scene plays out. I mean, one of the goals that Alex and I had when we were editing this, we both edited this together, was to recreate the emotional feeling we had through this journey as best we could. And some of that we wanted to recreate for Will, and then obviously when there's kind of a narrative handoff to us, we wanted to recreate for us. But that scene in Bonnie's house when Corey comes over and starts looking through the stamps, I thought we were done for. Like I you know, there's a certain
the camera keeps veering over to see Corey, and it's just like,
I don't know if you guys have ever been in that, or like are filmmakers and have been filming something that is potentially dangerous, but you just kind of zone out, and suddenly you just like start watching it as if it's a screen of TV, and like you're disassociated from it. And
cool video. Oh shit, there's a meteor coming towards me.
yeah, exactly. You just kind of you just like it's like some weird escapism. And I knew in the back of my head that I should be afraid, and I was kind of ready to protect Hannah if something were to happen. But for the most part, I was just like, if something crazy is going to happen, I just need to make sure it's in focus. Like that was my main concern when we were in that scene. But it was scary. It was really weird. We were in an unfamiliar place. The things that Bonnie was saying, the stories that she was telling were out of this world, and she was pretty convinced those were her stamps. And yeah, it was bizarre.
No, I remember you walked away from that going, holy shit, we just captured in real life that scene from Boogie Nights where the drug deal goes wrong.
I was just gonna say that's what it felt like. And last thing,
I was gonna say she got the rights to Sister Christian. That's it's Chinese.
Corey's back there throwing firecrackers down. I was gonna say before I pass it back over to my cohorts. Last thing is, I think Vipuna. I'm pretty sure that's a character from Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. That's just my guess. Is it? No, I'm just making that up. I don't know.
You gotta love what a Russ Meyer influence. I love that.
I could see Vipuna in there. Okay.
So I got a kind of a technical question, I guess, because I've never made a documentary, but like I've seen kind of behind the scenes sometimes. And have you guys had to do like reshoots isn't the right word, but maybe you kind of know what I'm stepping in, the camera wasn't on. Hey, can you come back and just walk up to that door again? Like how much of that kind of stuff was in there, or have you had to contend with anything like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, there were definitely like, when we would shoot with Will, for instance, like when it was the three of us, like when we were at the last bookstore, and he was kind of doing the stamp appraisal, like there was some direction involved in that. I would set the camera to a nice shot, and I'd be like, okay, go ahead and enter the bookstore now, and he would walk into the shot. But as far as like what he would do or say, like with the camera rolling, like we just tried to capture it best we could. But there was
on the flip side of that, though, Joe, you should tell the story about him finally reading his dad's email.
Right. So at the end of the documentary, I asked him if he's read his dad's email yet, and he hadn't. So Alex and I went away with the footage we had. I mean, we were actually, when Roman, sorry, this is a quick digression, but when Roman left the bar, and he says to Will, text me soon or I'll kill you, or he says something like that as a joke, and it's really weird. And he walks off. What he's referring to is he said he had a present for Will, and we cut that out because that never comes back in, and we didn't want to confuse people, where they were already confused. So, but he said he had a present for Will for bringing him the stamps, and we thought that was the ending of our movie. So we kept trying to reach out to him to get that to that shoot, to get this present, whatever Roman was going to give him. And then he disappeared again, and we were never able to find him. So we kept like this production alive for probably a year after that, just hoping that exchange would happen, and it didn't. And then Alex and I just said, you know what, fuck it, we're gonna go edit this thing with what we have and see if we have an ending in here. And so we did. Will got that boat. It was crazy. We're like, all right, well, that's the ending. And after we cut it all together, which is basically the cut you guys saw, we showed it to Will a couple times just to get his feedback. And I was coming in town back into LA, and I asked him just to see, I was like, do you think you're comfortable reading your dad's email? And he said, yes. And we were like, oh, all right, well, we should shoot it. And he's like, okay. And we'd already finished the doc at this point. And we were like, if this is gold, we're going to have to like go back into re-edit mode. And so he came up to my apartment, which was a place we hadn't really filmed yet. And he read the email. It was really emotional. It was really well written. His dad's a fantastic writer, and I've since read articles that he's written. And Will was in tears. And after he finished it, it was a long email. After he finished it, kind of just looked up and was just like, whoa. And I was like, how do you feel now? Do you feel any different to your dad? And he was like, no, I don't think so. And his voice was all wobbly. And I asked him to read it again because he read it so fast that I couldn't really hear every word. And he refused. And I don't think he's read it again since. And it was such a nice moment that we were able to share together at the conclusion of this whole thing. And I don't think he would have read it had he not seen the documentary a couple times and like let that, denial of what he's still holding on to from his father. Like, I think that finally sunk in. He was able to read this email, but his attitude towards his dad didn't change. So we felt that because emotionally he didn't change his attitude towards his dad, the ending of the cut with the boat still stood.
Yeah. It
point
sounds like
being
it was
on top of that. Sorry, point being on top of that too. Like there were definitely moments where we had to, direct in order to get something that would make sense in the cut. But there were also definitely moments where we would try to get something again or in a certain way that it would make sense with the cut when we very much chafed up against the reality that we were filming, a real story with real people and real trauma. And like there were only a certain limit that we could go sometimes.
Now you guys have five. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say with his email though, it sounds like it was a real personal, kind of beautiful moment for all you guys. And I think in what you have in the documentary, the email kind of works as a MacGuffin, kind of a MacGuffin anyway. And the ending, I think is satisfying, and it leaves sort of a mystery out there. But it's good to know that he did read the email, and that moment exists, and maybe that's good enough sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was. So when you look at this, like filmmakers, Alex and I were always drawn to this story of Will and his father and that relationship, and how not only is this a very odd situation for anybody, this like weird Russian neighbor gives you a bag of stamps that he says are worth $1 million. That's a weird situation, but it's even weirder when it's given to the son of a con artist who got busted for selling counterfeit art, and left such an impression on their offspring that they hate them. So how does that shape your motivations within this, film noir novel that was dropped on your lap? And that was the interesting thing for Alex and I. And in my mind, in my filmmaker mind, the beautiful ending was him coming to realize that, he's better than his father, and he can read his email and forgive him for his sins because Will has been tempted to sell the stamps. So he kind of knows that they could, like, the idea of what it is to like make easy money illegally. Like, Will got a taste of it, kind of can understand his dad a little bit, and he forgives him. Like that was my, he reads the email and it's like he forgives him, and that's great. Obviously that's not what happened. That's not what happened in real life. But so that's why we were like pretty disappointed that he didn't read it in the end and was more affected by it.
Well, I was thinking, okay, so both of you have understandably a verite approach to making the documentary. That's how it should be. But with Will, what would happen just hypothetically 4 or 5 years down the line, right? And your Penny Black website with, you can, I'm sure it's a website, hopefully that will continue to grow because you guys have so much footage and updates and whatnot. Let's just say hypothetically, Will sits both of you down and says, the whole premise of the movie is his father being a con artist. And like you were talking about the theme of the movie, of the documentary. And he says, you know what? I made the entire thing up. Roman's my buddy. That one full year you had, that space that you guys had where we were just gone, me and Roman, we were figuring something out. And the reason why you can't get Roman is because you just can't find him. And then maybe he gives you Roman's address and text and new number. And he says that boat is actually from the stamps, et cetera, all of this stuff. And that would tie into your entire documentary and actually in many ways your thesis. Just wondering, just throwing that out there for you guys. How would you feel? How would you react? Because even though he's a good friend of both of yours, the whole premise of this movie is it's very beguiling and alluring and immersive. And there's so many directions you can take the Penny Black in.
I'll answer. Well, Alex is a closer friend with him, but I'll answer first. And well, we know he wasn't lying about his dad because we did a certain amount of background research on that. So I wouldn't buy that, obviously. But if he was to say that he knew Roman and Roman was somehow in on something that Alex and I were unaware of, I would believe it. Like I wouldn't surprise me. I'd be like, what the fuck, man? Like, why? But I wouldn't be super surprised. I mean, at one point we thought that. At one point when we couldn't find Roman and the stamps went missing, we started questioning what his relationship to Roman was. And I mean, we went in so many different directions on this, but is there a reason why he doesn't want us to meet up with Roman? Like maybe it started as some kind of a lie and then he didn't want us to know the truth. So Roman was like, he was giving us misinformation to find Roman and was telling us he was some Russian guy when really he was, not, or I don't know. We didn't know, but I don't know. It's pretty convincing when we met Roman that, I mean, Rowan must be a really good actor if that's the case. Like that. But anyway, Alex, what are your thoughts?
I would love it. I would think it was great. I'd be so goddamn impressed. I wouldn't even be mad. Shit, we got a great movie out of it. And I like puzzles myself and I like games. So like if I was gamed for 7 years, that's one of the best immersive experiences I've never had to pay for. Also, though, like, I think if he sat us down and told us that, we wouldn't have to change a thing about the movie because the entire premise and the entire conclusion of the movie still works. Will talking about like being able to do a con well could apply to both, the events that you see within the film or like the existence of the film itself.
It's awesome. Thank you guys so much for spending time with us. But before we leave, we want to ask you guys some of your favorite movies. So some of our listeners, along with watching The Penny Black, will check it out themselves. So what are some of your favorite films and what would you recommend for our listeners to watch?
I mean, if you're into this movie, a movie, probably the most visceral theatrical experience I've ever had in my life was watching The Game. David Fincher's The Game. I came out of that theater suspicious of everybody. And I don't know, that movie, I think parallels this movie a little bit. I don't want to give ourselves like Fincher vibes, but
I will.
but seriously, like when you don't really know, you really start battling with the ending of It's All a Dream. And that's like one of these, I went to film school and it's one of these things that you always are told to stay away from. Like it's all a dream. Like, listening to other people's dreams is boring. It's only interesting if they say, oh, you were in it. But yeah, like the Fincher movie somehow keeps it going despite the fact that, everything is exactly as it says it is. Yeah. It's called The Game. But anyway, the Penny Black I feel like steals a little bit from that.
And you, great choice, by the way. And you Alex, how about you?
I apologize to your sound editor. There's a helicopter audible in the background, but there might be a helicopter audible in the background. But I mean, if you like this movie, like I think the movies that we drew on a little bit more inspired by and that like play similarly, I would check out Tickled. Catfish is an old one, obviously, that was great on that level. The Imposter or The Ambassador, or both of those. But also, like, we get so many requests to turn this into a feature film, like a feature narrative, which we're going to do. But like one of the first documentaries I remember that played out like a perfect fiction feature was King of Kong, which is one of my favorite docs of all time. I think that thing just plays out perfectly. But as far as weird docs go and favorite docs go, I wanted to recommend, and I got to pull this up again because I never remember how to say the name, Symbio Psycho Taxiplasm Take One. It's on the Criterion, spines or whatever. And it's about this director who's shooting either like an indie movie or just like a scene, just like an exercise scene. And he hires a documentary crew to film the making of the movie. And then like a few days in, he hires a second documentary crew to film the first documentary crew that's filming the making of the movie. And they keep getting in each other's ways in the filming, both like the documentary crew, the second documentary crew, and the filmmaking crew. And then they all decide to gather together and mutiny and like rebel against the director. And so, of course, when this happens, he goes out and hires a third documentary crew to film the mutiny happening. It's like 70 minutes. Check it out. It's brilliant.
It sounds like a Schenectady, but like the documentary version of it.
100%.
All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. Bruce and Eric, do you have any final shots?
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say One Cut of the Dead. I'll say One Cut of the Dead too. That kind of goes along with what you're just saying as well. If you haven't seen One Cut of the Dead, I won't say anything else. Thanks, guys. Let Eric have the last word.
I just want to thank you guys for coming on here. And two things. One, I'm sure you guys got something coming up or something you're working on, and you can tell us about that, obviously. If you have any sort of Kickstarters, we'd like to know about it and tell all three of our listeners about it. And the second thing, if you do find Roman, I can't speak for Greg or Bruce, but I would like to talk to Roman. So
okay, I would never. I'll never see Roman, and I'm even scared for you, Alex, that you're outside. Okay, that's horrible that
there's helicopters going around, you know.
Well, thanks for opening the windows for us to plug something, but we don't have any Kickstarters at the moment, but we are actively making this a fiction film. So we're right now putting together a treatment to start handing out to potential partners.
So who's your dream actor? Dream actor for Will?
Caleb Landry Jones.
Okay.
That's a great choice. By the way, that is an amazing choice because well, I don't have to tell you guys, he's the perfect chameleon. And one last thing, guys, can you just plug your website and where can people find the Penny Black, etc.? Where do you want to lead them to?
Yeah, thepennyblackmovie.com, and you can find it's playing on iTunes and Amazon, anywhere you rent or buy digital content. You'll find the Penny Black, but you can also click through our website.
Okay, thank you guys so much for your time, and please tell Will all the gloves are off. We love him too. So
thanks,
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.